Nicki Collen, Baylor head coach, back with us for part two. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Hi, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to part two of our conversation with Nicki Collen, the head coach at Baylor. I'm Howard Megdal, thanking you for making us your first listen every day. Make sure you subscribe and check out our podcast every weekday plus WNBA Draft Saturdays. So without further ado, I'm going to take you to our conversation with Nicki Collen. So in terms of who you described as the master of the playbook is Caitlin Bickle, who is somebody, I asked Sarah Andrews, who is the most underappreciated player on this roster. And she said, Caitlin, without a moment's hesitation, are there just a lot of different ways in which that manifests itself where it's clear not just to her teammates, but to you as well on a daily basis?
I mean, I've known since the first week I coached Caitlin that she could impact us in a big way. That I think she was someone that I'm not suggesting the last staff didn't see as valuable, but I'm not sure she checked all their boxes for post player, in a high-low system. And I feel like she's someone that can pick and pop and play off the bounce a little bit. She's a good passer. I mean, there were so many times last year, or even with our roster a year ago, where there were certain things I couldn't run with Queen and Liz, that I could run when Caitlin went in the game, regardless of who she came in for or was with, because she could throw the lob past the Liz on a back screen. You know, she was a good decision maker. So having someone that can, even though her numbers, it's so frustrating because she shot 19% from three last year. The kid can shoot it, it's part of why she didn't shoot it well was there was a hesitancy, even though that wasn't a hesitancy because of something we told her as a staff. It was just her wanting to defer to Nalissa, wanting to defer to Queen. So there was like a hesitation to, I'm open. There were times when she would make it and be apologizing because she missed somebody as she's running back on defense and the ball went in the basket. And so I think her growth comes into being more of a leader because now ultimately she'll get herself in the starting lineup. But it's consistently making the three, even if it's not at 40%, but she's at 30%, there'll be a different respect for her, and now it becomes easier to be a great passer. But when we talk about underappreciated, it really is, it's attention to detail, knowing the game plan. If I said, Caitlin, run the point on the green team, she can run the point on the green team. Not that she's a point guard, but she knows every position on the floor and she knows what we're looking for in a play, just not where she's supposed to go, which is a big part of young people. Like they just want to run the play right. They don't even understand what the options sometimes are on it. And so, but she's our best screener, and something that's obviously doesn't show up in the stats, but there should be such a thing as a screen assist, because whether it's off the ball or on the ball, like if I'm Jamie and I want a stagger screen, I know Caitlin's going to clean up whatever my defender does off the first screen. She's going to really know who she's supposed to screen and read what they do. When we get into early offense, our step ups and drags, she understands how to go to the defense and not just leave the guards like hanging out to dry. And so it's just little things like that that makes your team flow. I mean, it's underappreciated, but there's a reason why teams look good. And sometimes it is just because someone is setting the screens and making the passes, and it doesn't always show up in the box score. But she's talking on D, I mean, she's really a good communicator.
We need that. We need the screen assist. We'll have to petition Synergy, I think, to make that happen. I will just say, just to sort of take it back to the style of play. You guys, you talked about you wanted to run more and you even get beyond pace. Transition, you were 16.3% of the time, which is, around the midpoint in terms of Division One. When you were in transition, you were the
We were
90th
bad.
percentile. You were as efficient in transition on offense. I would get the exact number. You were fifth in the country in how efficient you were in transition offense. And I guess I wonder how surprising that number is to you. And, is that something where you think you can be even better just because it's just the sheer number of transition opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we need to be in transition more. I would tell you it was also our highest volume of turnover. So I'm going to flip it around and say my frustration was not taking advantage of almost primary break. I felt like we were good in secondary, early transition. We got really good in our early actions. I don't think primary break, we were as good as we could be. We didn't put enough pressure on the rim with a rim runner. I think when you have the rim run pressure, it makes it easier to get shots on the wing. Philosophically, coaches are very different. I don't believe in just throwing the ball ahead. Like I want to put pressure downhill. I want our shooters to get their feet set. I want to touch the paint and I want to kick it out. Like our shooting percentage, when we just threw it ahead to Jamie and she catches the ball over her shoulder and steps into her shot, she's just not a very efficient shooter. Right. But when her feet are set and someone gives her an inside out pass, and I think probably every team's that way. Obviously, you look at your team in a way more in-depth perspective, both overall and player, because to me, there's always like general rules and then there's player different rules. Like there's exceptions to rules, and, no one's not throwing the ball to Steph Curry, wherever he is. And so I think it's about this team really understanding what other people are good at. Like for us, I would say go throw it ahead to Katarina, our Brazilian junior college transfer, because she's such a good downhill attacker. But don't throw it ahead to Jamie. Like really attack the paint and get her a shot, and really getting us to understand, like there's going to come a point in time where I'm trying to get Asia, hey, when you defensive rebound, I want you to push in transition. I want you to understand how if you don't get primary break, how you can dribble handoff right into next actions, and I think it's an evolution process that we're not there yet, but I feel like is going to develop over time as we start to play in games, and she's grabbing those defensive rebounds. Like there are certain players that it's all about outlet and fill. But with her, can we get in transition even more if we have someone that can really play in transition? I've used Alyssa Thomas before, but this idea of Connecticut was so good in transition when she grabbed defensive rebounds. Now everybody's filling and you got a decision maker at the four, and who's stopping her? Is it a guard trying to stop her? Is it a post, that she can get around and really put pressure on the rim? So my goal is to be better and to really cut down our turnover. So drive up our volume, still be efficient, and take care of the basketball.
Doing that with a young group is, of course, difficult. And you mentioned Katarina as a JUCO transfer. You also have a really interesting group of freshmen, whether it's Dariana Little Page Budge or Kyla Abraham or Bella Fauntleroy. How have they looked early on, and what is it reasonable to expect out of what they can be for you as first years in this system?
I think, I think Kyla, when you look at Kyla, you see Queen, like just body type, how she can run, how she can block shots. But I think she's probably, she needs time, she just, she's played in different systems. She's played for different AAU teams. She's a military kid. So, consistency of coaching. I'm not saying she's had bad coaching. I just think, when it's constantly changing, messages are different, styles are different. I think Bella and Dariana are both going to play, and they're both going to play significant minutes. Sometimes some games more than others. They're similar and totally different, at the same time. Dariana is a mid-range pull-up kid that gets bounce and balance, from her dribble. She's going to cut, she's going to rebound. She's going to do all the little things. I like to refer to her as like a throwback player. Like at the end of the day, you may not be overwhelmed by her, but she's got 5 steals, in a scrimmage. She's grabbed 8 rebounds. She's got 6 points, and all her teammates like playing with her because she doesn't take bad shots. She's not out there hunting her own. In fact, I had to get on her in practice yesterday because I said, if you had just caught it there and you were in high school, what would you have done? And she said, I would have gone and scored. I'm like, okay, like, I know you're in college now, but when the defense isn't in front of you, the play isn't make the next pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's go put pressure, on the rim. And she scored the next 3 times, so sometimes they just need that reassurance that they're allowed to do the things that they're used to doing, because sometimes that's the pullback of high school to college.
Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for betting the start of the upcoming women's college basketball season, not to mention NBA and NFL. Find all your latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there, especially women's sports. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And going from the best player to trying to play a role. Bella is arguably our best rebounder. She's super strong and she's super bouncy. And then she's a really good 3-point shooter. And so you combine kind of this ability to be a spacer as a 3, that can go to the offensive boards, that will really put pressure on the rim because of the offensive rebounding, maybe more than, going off the bounce right now.
Mm-hmm.
But she's making that transition from playing almost all 5 to playing some 3. And now I'm like, okay, when are we going to be ready to be able to play multiple positions? Because I think we have kids that can, but it's a hard transition of I'm trying to learn one spot and do one thing right. And now you want me to try something else. I mean, it's that part that's a little tougher. So I think they're, right now they're both kind of swing 3-4s. Right now, Bella's a little bit more of a 3 and Dariana's definitely more of a 4 just because of Bella's ability to space.
Well, the good news is that you haven't given yourself a challenging schedule as you work them into this early
Right.
on. I mean,
yeah, and I don't think people realize how good some of the teams are on our schedule, that we tried really hard to elevate our schedule this year, even though there's not 7 top 10 teams on our non-conference schedule. What there is are teams that won their conference tournament that, last year I inherited a schedule with like 5 games with teams that were 300 or lower in the net, and we were like trying to at least improve our bye games by like 100 net points and say, you've got to buy some home games, but can we play different kind of teams? And so between Arizona, Maryland, which everyone's going to look at and say, the Gulf Coast Showcase, where we could end up with Michigan, a USF, a Georgia Tech, a Belmont, Villanova, people that don't realize how good those 2 teams are. Yeah. So I think across the board, it's a really good schedule that will really show up, I think, over time in the net.
I wonder, so is Bickle your primary defender on Maddie Cedrus? Maybe you can't reveal that, not knowing yet.
Yeah, I can't reveal that yet.
That's going to be fascinating, though, to see.
Yeah. She can hoop, though. Maddie can hoop. And then I'm already scared of trying to guard 5-out motion with no prep. So, but I'm pretty sure Belmont has something to say about that too. So
very true. Although am I remembering it's Belmont Villanova. Yeah. I mean, listen, that's a true pick'em game.
Exactly.
And St. Louis. I don't know why they got rid of Lisa Stone. Why you would, if you have Lisa Stone as head coach, you hold on to Lisa Stone.
I'm with you.
But that's
as a fellow Wisconsinite. I'm with you.
That is a whole other conversation maybe you and I will do a show just on appreciation of Lisa Stone sometime.
There we go. There we go.
So bottom line, this team and the way you measure and establish success in your mind, like you said, is this mixed blessing. I go back and I have been very vocal about this on social media. When you go 28-7, I think that's something to be celebrated, period. And then you can talk about the postseason, but the postseason is a crapshoot in all of these different games. You could face an underseeded team, which you indisputably did in the second round last year. And, you know, it is as much about your bracket and the way it works out that way. But in your mind, are you viewing success as a combination of the two? You know, how do you measure it here in year two for this program?
I don't know. You know, I'm just like a big believer. I think it will be really hard for people to understand this. But I think I've reached the point in my life where I'm just passionate about people in the game. Yeah. And so I'm not, I know that following in Kim Mulkey's shoes at Baylor, a Hall of Famer, I don't know that I can ever match her success if we're just talking about wins and losses or impact on a university. And so for me, it's about, am I doing a good job preparing these guys for life after basketball? Do they love their experience here? I mean, we're gonna keep competing for championships. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not taking a play off. I'm not taking a game off. I'm not taking a practice off. And the day that I do, I'll find something else, you know, to do. Because I didn't leave my family to come here, you know, and not give my best. And so for me, it's just, you know, are we getting better? You know, do I have the locker room? Are these kids playing hard? Are they doing the right things? You know, are we representing Baylor in a positive light? Do I have the ability to impact people around the country? Because I do have these platforms, you know, like, you know, we're going to have some exciting, you know, news in some ways in my mind in support of BG soon. And I just feel like my impact can be bigger than wins and losses, you know, and that doesn't mean that I want to lose a single game, because I never do. And I always want to line up and compete. You know, my staff says all the time, like, you know, they're like, you go to a different place, like even in a closed scrimmage, you know, it goes from you chatting up, smiling, patting people on the back to like, let's go, you know, and like, apparently I have a different look, you know, like they can see it in my eyes. They can see it in my demeanor. Like I definitely can go to a place where I feel like this is my zone, you know, this is where, you know, it's hard to say this is what I was born to do, but I certainly think when I get in the arena competition that I have no fear, you know, that I feel like I have no fear because I've put in the work to put myself in that position. It's not like just because I'm an uber confident individual. It's like I feel like I do everything that it takes, you know, to put myself in position to make the right decisions. And I'm still wrong sometimes, you know, like I still call the wrong play, have the wrong substitution, but I'm also super accountable in terms of I always want to be better, you know, and I'm always watching European basketball, EuroLeague started, you know, I'm not watching it because maybe I'm going to see a player I know or a player I'm going to recruit. I'm watching it saying, what are the trends? Like, how can I mean, it's that part. It's like I'm always in growth learning mode. How can I be better? And so the moment I'm out of that, and I'm just accepting a paycheck, I'm done. There's something else for me at that point.
Locked on Women's Basketball is brought to you by Sweatblock. Jennifer used to wear multiple shirts and fold toilet paper in her armpits to try to hide the embarrassing sweat. Not anymore, thanks to Sweatblock. The Sweatblock wipes have been a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years with over 10,000 five-star reviews. Don't miss this opportunity to try Sweatblock. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. As a point of personal privilege, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who works harder than you in this business. I have seen you do go to a different place when you're out on the court, but you also have a legacy of players who I have spoken to through the years who are always grateful for the opportunity to have played for you and to have learned from you. And so it is about both. And so I think it's important to highlight both of those things. I also would be remiss not to point out how vocal you have been about Brittney Griner and how important that is and how it stands out. And I know that for all of us who want to see people with platforms using them to help shine a light, how much that means. So I thank you. I know our listeners do as well. And to our listeners, make sure you are tuning in to Baylor, who is a must-watch always. And we'll be doing plenty of it over the course of the season and covering the program quite a bit. But Nicki Collen, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and best of luck this season.
Thanks, Howard.
Locked On Women's Basketball, your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest story of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts.